Good morning and welcome to SimWorld. Today it is August 1st, new month upon us. It is rent day or mortgage payment day. So happy first of the month. Roniel, good morning. How are you?
The first of the month. So grab your checks and come on. I know you know that song, Marsh.
I don't know. I
Bone
don't.
Thugs and
Uh,
Harmony. You know who that
what
is.
was the Bone Thugs and Harmony song that I know is the one that came out in like 2007. I don't remember what song is that. I'm gonna look it up in real time. It was the only song. It was like well past their not their prime. I'm not trying to say that. What? Let's see here.
So they're gonna.
Uh,
I'm looking with you. They're gonna get their two hits that they're gonna get today. Two
Strength
hits
and
from the.
loyalty. I tried. I think it was I tried.
Yeah, I'm looking here. You are right.
I think
Don't know what that is.
you don't know. I
That is.
tried. Yeah, it's their fifth
Yeah,
highest song on Spotify right now. I tried by Bone Thugs and Harmony. That's the one that I know from them. 103 million listens. So shout out
yeah.
to Bone Thugs.
In 22 years.
I mean, in their defense, Spotify was not around in 2007, so they got that going for them. All right, well, we got a couple things to talk about. We're going to talk some ACC, get your opinion on a conference that a season ago had 5 teams in the final regular season rankings in the top 25, in the top 16. We're going to talk a little bit about that because now this conference kind of feels like it's dead meat. Nobody cares about it. But first, latest news that came out yesterday is that Adam Silver and the SWBA continues their pursuit, let's call it, of a European. It's not an expansion, but a European arm of the league. They met with Real Madrid in hopes of swinging them over to get anybody up to speed that hasn't been paying attention. The Euro League had previously rebuffed the association's efforts to try to kind of come in, essentially take over, and so now it appears that the SWBA is saying, "F it, we'll do it live," and going at it themselves. Roniel, your opinion? I mean, you're a businessman. Um, right move, wrong move? Should the league worry about expansion locally before going over to try to add a European league in and of itself? What's your opinion on this?
Well, let me go ahead and ask because I get clarity from you, Marsh, there because I know you just mentioned it. The way you worded it draws an assumption. So this is not teams added to the
No,
SWBA. This is
this is a
almost like
whole other
like
thing.
like a G League. It's
Like a Euro League, but underneath the. So essentially, the Euro League has existed, and it's not the most profitable of leagues in the same way that the SWB is very profitable. So the SWBA over the past however many months approached the Euro League and said, "Hey, we would come over. We would essentially, I don't know, merge ownership, whatever it might be, and we think we could run it better, right? We could make more money. We can take the American business model to Europe, and it could be more profitable." The EuroLeague was like, no, we don't want that. So now the SWB is saying, screw it, then we're just going to make our own league in Europe, and they're trying to poach some of the most notable ones from Europe because, let's be honest, if you're going to make a league in Europe and you're not going to have Barcelona, Real Madrid, some of these major sporting clubs that also have their football slash soccer arms, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So it appears that that's what they're trying to do with Real Madrid. So it would be SWBA Europe, or not no longer. Yeah, I guess that would be it because it's currently at that. So the European Association, essentially.
again. So as you tried to explain that to me and the viewers, do you see how convoluted it was?
I mean, how about let's boil it down. New league
Well,
in
no,
Europe, run by
right,
the current SWBA.
but as you tried to explain, this is no indictment on your explanation. It's an indictment on the concept to me. Like what? Like that's what I take away from it. The SWBA is SWBA. It is what it is, right? It is the professional premier league on the planet by many, by all accounts. The Euro League is the second tier. Yes, you can call the G League what it is, but the G League is it's a developmental league. It's still the D League. We know that, right? Euroball's where it's at, and if you add in the fact that European players in the European League are busting, you know what, at the pro level here stateside, what does that look like? Why, as a European player playing in the Euro League, would I want to go and play for the SWBA's Euro branch? as a funnel to bring me to the SWBA versus playing in the Euro League, playing for my club, and already having that notoriety, and then coming to the SWBA. I can see from a business standpoint why it may make sense. For the for the talking heads. I can understand why SWBA may want to do that. But if I'm a player, it makes no sense. I can't imagine that they're actually going to win that war, getting some guys to come to SWBA Europe. It doesn't. If you can't explain it, right? If you can't explain it clearly, then it's going to be a challenge to make it happen. It's a weird concept to me. Do I love the idea of European basketball making its way to SWBA? Yes, but as an arm of the SWBA versus a team within the league, no, I don't.
So
It doesn't make sense.
it's a little bit of an audacious take by the league to say we're going to go to Europe and we're going to run basketball better than you've done it. Because here's a couple things. What American like the SWBA has an Africa League. Do you know who watches that in America? Nobody. Because it's not stateside. You're not going to those games. Nobody in America is currently watching European basketball. So you're not going to be attracting fans from America. So you're essentially saying we think that we can do the business side of sports better in Europe than what you're doing right now. But you are not going to be successful if you do not get the staple programs, Real Madrid, Barcelona. Those are the. There's definitely others, and this is proof of how little EuroLeague I'm watching. But there are established organizations within Europe that people care about. But to your point, who's going to go there? It's not going to be any different than the EuroLeague because you're still going to want to get to the SWBA. This is Ricky Rubio because he played over. He played for, I believe it was Barcelona. No, he played for Juventud Badalona. I don't know who that is, but here this is what he did before coming to the SWBA. 2016, he made his debut in 2005 as a 14-year-old. In 2006, 15-year-old wins a championship and is the FIBA U16 championship MVP. 2017, he is 16 years old. 2007, EuroLeague steals leader. 2008, he wins the Mr. Europa Player of the Year. 2009, he's the Liga Defensive Player of the Year. 2010, he's not only the champion, he's the most spectacular player. He's a rising star, and he wins the Copa del Rey in both 2010 and 2011. So this is a guy that has a Defensive Player of the Year, a most spectacular player, all before he even enters the SWBA. And then what did he become in the SWBA? A really solid starting point guard. So the talent is not going to go to Europe. That's American based. American or Europeans are still going to want to come to America to play. So I just don't understand because we've seen other leagues try to knock out establishments. In America, we have tried to have like 3 to 4 different football leagues come up to challenge or to supplement the SWFL. None of them work. I don't know why the SWBA thinks they're going to walk over to EuroLeague where there's like 5 different levels of leagues that people are locked into and think they're going to add anything that's going to impact that market. Maybe I'm not a businessman, but to me that makes 0 sense.
Mark Gasol, Rudy Fernandez, Pau Gasol, Jose Calderon, Sergio Lowell, Alex Abrines, Nikola Mirotic. The problem that I have with it, and everything you said is correct, Martian. If I didn't articulate it, I will double down here and maybe make it a little bit more articulate. When you have a preeminent league like the SWBA, and then its developmental league is as big a deal as it is. I know it's not the SWBA, but to America, it's pretty big deal when Gatorade came around. It's what is the difference from playing if you're a European player playing for SWBA Europe? What then happens? Then you go to the American G League,
right?
And then you go to the SW. The pipeline makes no sense, and if the future of it doesn't make sense, you can't make it work.
If it doesn't, I can't imagine that they're thinking this is a pipeline because the G League isn't even a pipeline. It's a slight one. But if they're purely just thinking we are going to have like, it makes sense if you're merging with the EuroLeague, but the EuroLeague said no. It doesn't make sense to start from scratch unless you're getting all the big players of the EuroLeague and those areas, because that's, you need a following to be beneficial. You can't just create teams in major cities and say you should start rooting for us because we are in your city and we're going to try to get different players. It's just not going to work. Speaking of different players and speaking of rooting for, how about let's go ACC? We said this at the jump. 5 teams finished the final regular season poll last year in the top 16. It was number 1 Virginia Tech, number 2 Duke, 9 Louisville, 14 Georgia Tech, and 16 North Carolina. And of course, 2 seasons ago, Miami won a national championship. It kind of feels as if it is all up in the air and none of that matters anymore, because Virginia Tech loses Travion Novick. Louisville loses Pooh Lewis. Duke loses Cooper Flagg. Georgia Tech loses Donta Walker. Miami loses Jermaine McElmore. And now we're kind of left with a wide open ACC. My top 3 was, my number 1 team was Syracuse because I was dropping the shoulder and thinking they could win. I had a top 3 of Duke when I did this exercise with Sniper. In your opinion, is the ACC really dead? Are we just not thinking North Carolina is going to ball out now that Marco Jacobs is there? What's your take on this conference? Because it kind of feels like I just don't care about it right now, and it's one of the premier conferences in college basketball.
Well, I think that's wild. It's a wild statement. I care about it, but I do think it's wide open. I don't think there's a premier or just kind of standout team outside of Miami. I am very interested to see what Miami's going to do. Yes, they lost Jermaine McElmore, but he had kind of a down season. When I look at this Miami team, comparative to the season where they won Hoops Area Championship a season prior to last season, it looks like they can get some of that pace back, and that's what was missing. They bring in Sean Miller. We saw what Sean Miller was able to do last season. He comes over to Miami. He's got an established record there. He's going to figure out that rotation, and now they can run with some pace now. You got Dominique Bianco still there. We know what he does, 15 points a game, and then you have Kevon Jackson coming back from injury, along with Tony Henderson. Right. What was Miami missing last season? Speed on the defensive end. Big Richard Hennessy. Everyone loves the fact that he's 7'2", but one of the most raw offensive 7'2" that you will see in college sports. And even slower getting back on defense than he was raw on offense. So you insert Tony Henderson, who could or could not start. I think there was some news about him starting. I think that team's rather dangerous because they have some championship pedigree on the team. They have some athleticism, some defense. You come to the rest of the teams here, though. Again, Duke is Duke, right? That's where we go off of legacy. You got Duke, you got North Carolina, but do they really have the makeup components, and are those coaches going to be able to pull together all the youth that they brought in on their freshman class?
Speaking of Duke, do you buy the John Shire, he's on the hot seat stuff? 3 straight seasons, second round exits?
Well, look, I said no. I think the seat's warm.
It's warm after you win 30+ games.
I think it's warm. There's a pedigree there. Like you gotta make a deeper run. You gotta make a deeper run.
So do you think he's gone if they don't make a deep run, or do you think the seat just gets red hot?
I just think he gets. I think he gets hotter. I don't think he's gone. Absolutely not.
It seems
they have a great team.
They're going
to struggle, Marsh.
On what end?
I look forward to them struggling. Again, people hop on the name and the hype train, and I don't want to lose my thought there because I do want to point a couple things out before I hand it back to you. But that front, who's going to run in the front court? I love Victorious Ilgauskas. I think this is a big chance for him to shine on both ends of the court. John Shire is not running the offense through the middle.
Why
That's
not?
not what John Shire does. He's not pounding the ball into the paint. And your other big man, who will take over as a starter at some point, Andre Ivanov.
Start them both.
What's that?
I say start them both. I mean, who's defending 2 7'2" dudes? It's college basketball.
It's not the 90s, Marsh. It's not the 90s.
But who's defending that group? I mean, this isn't the SWBA where you stretch it all out. You can still be a pounded inside group.
Who are they defending? John Shire does
Put
not
him in the 3-2. Put him in the old Syracuse 3-2.
You still got to, if there's a missed shot, you still have to stop that on the fast break. That's the problem. In a set defense, yeah, they're gonna be tough to score against. But in today's game, and then offensively, like I said, and I think that's where people lose sight when it comes to college ball. These college coaches aren't just saying, "Hey, we got a group of guys coming in for a season or two, right? For 2 seasons. Let me shift everything that I am as a coach and shift it to these players." These coaches are an institution with an institution at a program. They have a staple of how they coach. It's the identity of the team. It's the identity of the conference. They're not shifting all of that,
But
and I think that gets lost.
shouldn't you make the case? Well, just on that, shouldn't you make the case, or shouldn't we make the case that a good coach does not wholesale change, but says these are the types of pieces I have. I'm not gonna try to fit them into a hole that they're not gonna fit into. The square peg round hole. I'm gonna adapt my tools to fit the tool set of the guys that I have. Wouldn't that be a better indicator of a great coach as opposed to, no, this is my system and we run it only?
You got the SWBA, and you got college. In my experience, when I've watched college, I can agree that the adaptability should be there, but these guys, they're bringing in certain talents to keep their pool moving, to keep their organization and program moving from not just this season, but to set it up for next season and the season after, as much as they can with the two and through. But I don't know how much of that. Mike Malone was one of the in the pros. He's one of the few coaches that went from a defensive coach
Yeah.
to an offensive coach. But this is not something you see often, Mark.
But then it's like two things, and I know you have another thing, so we're gonna make sure you get to that. But if you're John Shire, and I don't think he should be fired, and if I'm sitting here saying I think a coach should make some adaptations to the roster that he has and the guys that he has, then you should be recruiting the guys that you have. Then why on earth are you recruiting both Andrei Ivanov and Viktoras Ilgauskas if those are not guys that you could play together in your like that's a and again, I'm not saying he should be fired, but the recruiting to not even fit your assets or to fit your players to the roster that you have, that's a little bit of roster malfunction, malpractice.
Through and through, Marsh. Ilgauskas is headed pro after this season. There's no doubt.
100% he is. 100%.
Defender. Who do you plug in the middle? Who knows if there'll be another Ilgauskas type center coming to Duke that next season? Ivanov was ready to accept and commit
Sure.
to Duke. You bring him in.
But now you've got you're filling roster spots. It's kind of like college football used to be like this, where like you'd get a freshman quarterback and you kind of be like, all right, we don't need another quarterback for 2 seasons. We start recruiting when that guy's a sophomore, so that the new guy comes in as a junior, so it's 1 year in bench. Like I don't think sitting Ivanov on the bench for a full year though makes a lot of sense, because then you're gonna get 1 year out of him. To me, it just seems like a recruiting misfunction or just malfeasance. All right, you said you had another thing that you wanted to talk about. What's your other point?
Yeah, just wanted the ACC is wide open for this reason. And, I see the fans clamoring. I hear a lot of talk. I even heard you with the Syracuse talk. Apparently, you're trying to make amends with Coach Drayton somewhere.
Look, this is somebody else's rivalry. Okay, I am people, and he has said this, and I feel fine saying this. He thinks I'm his biggest hater. The number of times I've commended Coach Drayton for what he's done, all the way back to his prep days. I even came out and said I'm not picking against Coach Drayton, but yet people want to think we have a rivalry with him. There's no rivalry on this side. There's no hatred from my side of the house. That's all I gotta say. But continue your point.
Well, this will get this started. He thinks the media doesn't like him. I don't like Syracuse. Do I think they win more than 0 games last season? Absolutely. Do I think that they brought in some talent? I absolutely do. The clamoring from the fans about some of these coaches, this SimWorld Prep League that we've hearing about, and you hear me talk about, amazing league, love what it's doing for high school sports. But you're not going to step into the ACC year one and just, I don't see it from a coaching standpoint. These guys, I think there's Coach Skinny Washington at Wake Forest. I think you may have another coach that came there. They made the jump, right?
Tomas
There's going to be an
Kusa,
adjustment.
head coach Dre Pope is in South Carolina. There's a handful
Kudos
of
to these
names.
guys. Great coaches. Love what they did at the prep level. But there's going to be an adjustment to playing in the big leagues in SimWorld U, and changing that style of play for a 40-minute game. So I'm not sure how much I'm convinced. FSU, I've heard about this Josiah Cook injury. That was big time if he was able to come back. But even without him, Leon Quinn, the only player in not only the conference in SimWorld U last season, who was averaging double-digit rebounds and was in the top five. He was in the top five in rebounds and blocks. You got your middle sewed up. Garrett Hart comes back. We saw the development there, and then you bring in a kid like Darius McBride, which all accounts I think that he'll probably be starting. I think Florida State could be scary in the ACC, but who knows? It's wide open. It's wide open.
Yeah, I think what's gonna for me, not for anybody else, for me, what's gonna happen is right now I look at the ACC and there's a lot of names, there's a lot of teams that have I don't knows attached to them. You know, how good is Marco Jacobs going to be? Louisville is bringing back 4 double-figure scores. Pooh Lewis was the fulcrum of that. Can Kadarius Loftus really carry that team? Garrett Hart quietly averaged 17 points per game. I think I was talking to Sniper about this because he picked FSU as one of his 3 teams. You could have given me 5 guesses on how many points Garrett Hart averaged last season, and I would have said somewhere between 9 and 13. But if you said 17, I'd be like, your stats are wrong. I would have had to go to IT and say, what's up? You must have double counted a game, or what are you missing here because this is wrong. I think what's going to happen for me is I'm sitting here right now and I'm saying, the ACC, it's whatever. I'm not super excited about it in the same way I am some of the other conferences. And then I think what's going to happen is like 2 weeks into the season, we're going to see all these ACC teams maybe dunking on teams and having great starts, and I'm like, oh yeah, you know what, this is maybe one of the better conferences. I could very well see that happening because it's just so unknown right now. I think the only conference the only team in that conference that I'm probably not gonna hop on the bandwagon for is Virginia, because I don't know what the heck's going on there, and probably Notre Dame, because every other team in that conference has a piece or they added something to their roster from last season. Is that addition good or bad? I don't know, but it's an addition, and that's pretty much all you need to be, impactful right now in college basketball.
Ivan Suslov played alongside Ivanov, did make his way to Notre Dame. I think he can have a major season in Notre Dame. Considering what we saw from the bigs down low last season, Micah Shrewberry was absolutely intent on getting that ball to those players down low. I don't think we've seen half of what Suslov can do. That stock's going to be rising, so I'm excited to even see them. I'm with you on Virginia, and there's going to be there's ACC is going to be a proving ground for some coaching this season. I know I talked about the SimWorld prep guys stepping up to their first collegiate, but we've talked about John Shire and what it's going to be. Damon Stoudemire has a run to make there and figuring some things out. So this is coaching 101. This is a coaching gauntlet in ACC, and I'm looking forward to it.
When you mentioned Ivan Suslov, however you pronounce it, Andrei Ivanov, Viktoras Ilgauskas, 3 future stars of SimWorld Europe. In a SimWorld Europe, and whatever that name is going to be, leading whatever team is going to exist over there, all 3 of them return to the homeland and have themselves a career. All right, that's Roniel. We're back on Monday with myself and who knows who else. I thought this was going to be a co-hosted week, but a little choppy getting it back in this week. But we'll be back. We got the surprise coming next Thursday. I think it'll actually happen next Thursday. Who knows? But appreciate you joining us, Yells. Appreciate you all tuning in here on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.